Good evening. My name is Matt Reeves. My wife Jenny and I started the Frazee Center in Mentor Upstate about 12 years ago. We were convinced that we could take any child and make them a successful adult. Absolutely convinced of this. It doesn't matter their race, their economic status, nothing about them, the neighborhood they grew up in, trauma, IQ. We were going to make them successful. Torpedoes be damned. Failure is not an option. It is going to happen. These kids are going to graduate from high school, go to college. They're going to find life partners. They're going to build wealth. They're going to give back to our community. They're going to raise the next generation of kids who are going to change the world. 2 years in, we realized that failure was an option, a very real option. And we realized that the torpedoes came in the form of teenage pregnancy, in homelessness, in trauma, in violence, and these torpedoes began to destroy us and destroy our kids. And we realized that what we really needed in these kids' lives is the ability to create social capital. That is exactly what these kids needed. And so what we did at the Frazee Center and at Mentor Upstate is we started inviting in adults, caring adults who were outside of chaos, and they started connecting with kids who were inside of chaos. At the Frazee Center, it might have been throwing a ball or teaching gymnastics. At Mentor Upstate, it might be one of over the 1,000 mentors we have in our organization who goes in, eats lunch or eats breakfast, and tells that child about their life. And in doing so, it opens up a whole new world to that child, a world outside of their family structure, a world outside of their neighborhood, a world that one day they can see and reach. We give them hope. We give them the opportunity to have success economically and socially at some point in their life because this person connected with them, enjoyed their time together, and gave them the keys to the world that you and I live in. Thank you.
Good evening. I'm Mr. David, the bike club guy. What is more fun than riding a bike? It's riding a bike with friends, but it needs to be done in proximity. We believe that bikes and friendships with mentors and youth can be transformational, but it has to be grounded in proximity. Mentors and youth build relationship over time, relationship of trust. It doesn't happen in days and weeks. It happens in months and years. For us, proximity looks like cycling, eating together, giving each other the dickens of a time, having fun together, laughing at each other, laughing with each other, sharing life. Proximity has a texture. And in the summertime, when we're cycling, it also has a smell. Proximity and reciprocity. It will not work for us mentors to solely be the givers and for youth to be the receivers. It's obvious what mentors bring, a sense of life experience, wisdom, encouragement, listening ear. What youth bring to mentors is more subtle but no less important. A sense of perspective, a glimpse of the mentor's privilege, a lighthearted reminder not to take life quite so seriously. It may go like this. I'm riding up a hill early in the year and look back and the kids are really struggling and don't think they can do it. And I say to them, you can do it. You've got it in you. Fast forward several months. The youth discover that they do have it in them, and they're blasting up the hill. They look back, and they say, Mr. David, you can do it. You have it in you. With Momentum Bike Clubs, the one life you may change is your own. Thank you.
Hello, I'm Victoria Chance, and I need to tell you why Marianne Inglis and I called our new nonprofit My Neighbor's Voice. Because we were both inspired to change the volume and the tone of the civic discourse in the public square, we decided that we needed to find a way to hear one another's voices. We had to create a congenial space for listening. Secondly, we knew that together we could do something concrete to address the adversity and discord around us, not on the national stage, but here at home in our own neighborhoods where it would make an impact. And finally, we called it My Neighbor's Voice because our understanding of the word neighbor is wildly ambitious, far-reaching, and all-inclusive. Over and over, we have proven that a moderated conversation, concrete acts like sharing a meal together and speaking freely about civic issues will enable us to hear our neighbor, someone with whom we may have genuine disagreement, but we hear that we share the same concerns and desires, namely safety, prosperity, equality, and a good measure of contentment. My Neighbor's Voice offers a format for changing and challenging the contrived barriers and divisions that would force us to be separate. And it makes us look for safe opportunities to share story and connection around a dinner table. Listening is a way to diminish fear and confusion. Listening to your neighbor is a way to create communities that are stronger, safer, and welcoming for everyone. Join us at table. We want to hear your voice.
So I'm Will Hodge. I'm with the Board for Loaves and Fishes. With so much hunger in Greenville County, why is so much food thrown away? About 25 years ago, some citizens of Greenville asked that question. They searched out and found a nonprofit in New York who had a unique answer for it, a good idea. And they brought that idea back to Greenville County and established Loaves and Fishes. Fast forward to 2018. A few months ago, I jumped on the truck, one of our trucks, and we drove out to a major food distribution company here in Greenville County. And I watched as one of their employees took about 10 pallets of dairy products, vegetables, and fruits and loaded it onto the back of our truck. Then for about the next 4 or 5 hours, we drove all across the county and made about 10 stops giving food to nonprofit partners for free. So first people ask, well, what's wrong with the food? There's nothing wrong with the food. The only reason it wasn't at a grocery store, it was about a day or two too close to the expiration date. So I'll ask the question, what's your nonprofit passion? Are you into saving the environment? Well, last year we took 2 million pounds of food that would have definitely ended up at a landfill and ended up in the hands of people who needed it. Are you interested in stopping hunger? Obviously we are too, because we collected 2 million pounds of food and delivered it to people. Finally, are you just into nonprofits in general? Because that 2 million pounds of food had a retail value of about $5 million. So that's $5 million that nonprofits didn't have to spend on food, that they could put into things like adult education, summer camps for kids, substance abuse programs. So back to my original question, if there's so much hunger, why throw things away? Well, every day our staff is on trucks and our volunteers are out in the car saying it doesn't need to be thrown away. And we're out there connecting the people who have food with the people who don't. And essentially, we're like the food logistics company of Greenville helping out the nonprofits. Thank you.
That's a relief. Good evening. My name is Tyler Rex. I'm the director of Thrive Upstate. Around the office, I'm known as T-Rex. So before I introduce you to our organization, I first want you to think a little bit about yourselves and ask yourself, what can you not do physically? If you were to watch SportsCenter tonight on ESPN, what would you see that you simply can't do? And then ask yourself, what is intellectually beyond your capacity? If I pulled out my smartphone and looked at it, there's no way I really understand what's going on in there. Ask yourself, what job would you not be qualified for? Out of the thousands and thousands of jobs that are available, what would you simply not have the skills to do? And yet, despite all the things that you cannot physically do, intellectually comprehend, socially accomplish, you don't think of yourself as disabled. And you've probably never been labeled disabled. At Thrive Upstate, we support over 650 individuals with lifelong disabilities and special needs. We're providing services to them both in residential settings, in the workplace, and in the community, so that they too can thrive in life, work, and play. At Thrive Upstate, we cannot cure Down syndrome. We cannot cure a traumatic brain injury. But by focusing on the ability rather than the disability, and focusing on pushing back on those limitations, just like you and I are doing, we can, in a very real sense, eliminate disabilities in our community. We will all have limitations, but we can truly eliminate disabilities here in Greenville. Thank you.
So a couple of weeks ago, I was running the nonprofit booth at the farmers market downtown. Greenville Wordsmiths, the organization I direct, provides free creative writing and publishing opportunities for young people in town. So I had my favorite books on display, Super Beaver, Sergeant Marshmallow, The Zombie Corgi Named Jeff, and a couple of hours in, a particular gentleman walked by the table and seemed interested. So I handed him a book and told him about our mission, and he sort of harumphed and said, "This book doesn't make any sense. I don't get it." And he threw the book on the table and left. And I kind of got it, because let's get real, a kid's story can take us from space to a zombie apocalypse in 3 words. But, sorry. That can take us there in 3 words. But who's stopping us from asking what's worth publishing? Who's saying that, oh, it's cute, but why bother? Well, at Greenville Wordsmiths, we focus on empowering kids to discover their voices through writing. And over the last 2 years, we've published over 2,000 kids in Greenville and over 50 different books. 30% of the kids that we serve are either reluctant writers or have some kind of learning disability. And I think about Vincent, who was a young boy with autism, and his parents told us that the collaborative publishing workshops we did together helped him feel accepted for the first time in his life. And Kai, a boy who cried through his first 2 workshops with us because he hated writing so much, and now he's a student at the Fine Arts Center. The power of seeing your name on a page is life-changing and mind-altering, and it changes the way a child thinks, from being just somebody who writes to being a writer. And that change in your self-worth and self-value will impact you for the rest of your life. And we don't get there by looking at a child's story and saying that we don't get it. We get there by letting their story wash over us and asking us how we get their story out there. Thank you.
Well, I'm Doug Dent, and I'm the CEO of the Greenville Revitalization Corporation and Executive Director of the Greenville County Redevelopment Authority. For 100 years, Greenville County was the textile capital of the world. The mill villages were self-contained units. They had their own medical, they had their own stores, they had their own schools, they had their own sports, they had everything. Self-contained, walk to work, it was great. In 1970, all that changed. Textile industry left. And all those services left as well. 1/4 of the population of Greenville County lives in what's called the Textile Crescent, which is where the old textile mills were and where those mill villages were. That 1/4 of the population of Greenville County has a very different lifestyle than you and me, because Greenville County has a 4% unemployment rate. In the Textile Crescent, it is 10% unemployment. The services are not there. The people they don't have recreation. They don't have anything that we normally take for granted. So the Greenville Revitalization Corporation was formed by the Greenville County Redevelopment Authority to bring economic opportunity back to the Textile Crescent. Our goal is to create opportunity for people so they can have jobs near to their house, so they can get those services back. Going to the buy-low on the bus is not fun, folks. So we're trying to bring buy-low to this neighborhood. We're trying to create economic opportunity. And for about 5 years now, we've been working at it hard. We've created a partnership with Goodwill for job training. We're building a park over there so they'll have recreation that's dedicated to the history of the textile industry. We're trying to do things that will bring creativity and interest back to those communities. So like Bartles and James said, we thank you for your support.
Good evening, everyone. I'm Jade Fountain. 2 blocks uphill from here, past where Pendleton Street Baptist Church once stood, and right next to where Pete's Restaurant used to be, United Ministry straddles an invisible line between 2 different Greenvilles. On this side of the line, Greenville's prosperity is enjoyed at places like a renovated Floor Field, upscale restaurants like Husk, and social spots like Zen. On the other side of the line, in West Greenville, the average median household income is $14,000, and more than half of people there live in poverty. More than half. When the condos up the street are finished, people on the 5th floor will be able to look out of their windows in the morning into our parking lot, where they will find people standing outside. Those people slept outside, who are waiting to come inside to take showers and use the restroom. You don't have to be a resident in those condos to be struck by that contrast. At United Ministries, we see our position between these 2 Greenvilles as both an opportunity and a responsibility. We have a responsibility rooted in the moral conscience of the communities of faith that chartered our agency to provide equal access to Greenville's prosperity for those who find themselves on the margins. We do this by providing programming and employment, education, housing, financial well-being, and the crisis assistance that we've always provided. As for the opportunities, that's not for them, that's for you, the people who find themselves on this side of the line. It's an opportunity to be a part of this work, an opportunity to work directly with someone from the other side and learn from their lived experiences. And it's an opportunity to express compassion and to practice justice. And perhaps it's an opportunity to recognize that there was only ever one Greenville to begin with. And if it's not the Greenville we want, then it's up to us to change it. Thank you.
I'm Stephanie Arnold, co-founder of the Homeless Period Project. We provide feminine products to women and girls living in poverty. I'd like to pass these out so you can know what a period pack is. I would like to begin tonight with a quote from Chantel Harris. She's a 17-year-old student in Spartanburg who receives our packs. Tampons and pads are expensive. I feel like if I didn't go through so many, my parents wouldn't have to buy them every few weeks. That would help a lot. So sometimes I just don't ask. There are thousands of girls like Chantel living in South Carolina. Depending on your definition of poor, there are approximately 450,000 women and girls living in poverty in our state, and about 200,000 of them attend our public schools. Some girls stay home and they use toilet tissue and old rags or socks rather than asking their parents for pads. Many girls miss school monthly because they do not have access to these necessities. How can they compete and stay up if they're not in class? HPP is changing that. When we started, we focused on homeless women. We never imagined the number of girls that lacked access to these necessities. Since 2015, we have donated over 100,000 period packs, half of those going to schools. We have partnered with Greenville County Schools, and we make accessible our period packs to every high school and middle school in the county. But much work needs to be done. I believe that the way we reach our goals is to change the way we view periods in our society. Every woman in this room knows that a period will not wait until you get home. A period will not wait until payday. Providing these girls with access to these necessities and making sure that they stay in the classroom is sending a strong message. We're telling them we value you and we value your contribution to the classroom. Thank you.
Good evening. My name is Don Oglesby. I'm the CEO of Homes of Hope. We are the largest affordable housing developer in the state of South Carolina for single-family housing. And we have a really successful workforce development program for men overcoming drug and alcohol addictions, giving them construction skills that put them on a career path rather than just a job path. I can only talk about one of those tonight with the limited time, so I'm going to talk about something that really is a raging conversation in our community, at least I think it is, affordable housing. So when I think of affordable housing, an image pops into my mind. It probably did yours too. It's our dream, one of our dreams at Homes of Hope, that affordable housing would not be something you could see. It would be something that is an economic benefit that would be for everyone in any income group. The way that we try to do that is what we call mixed income development, that housing is affordable for every income level, from the lowest to the highest. Now, when you heard the phrase affordable housing, you probably thought of something negative. We think that's a real positive, and the reason we do that is because of the way we develop mixed income housing. It's incredibly important for us that it's market quality, incredibly important for us that it's energy efficient, and more important than any of those things, it's incredibly important for us that for the low wealth families that we house, that it's paired with financial wellness training or education. Because it shouldn't just stop with affordability of housing for families in that situation. It should go beyond that to economic impact in their life, so that they can begin to build assets and become contributors not just in the community but to the local economy. Just like the men, when their job is a career path job rather than just a job they hold, they're now contributing to the local economy. That affects me and you, both from an individual level and as a community. So that's what we are doing. It's life change business versus life help business. And we think it's a great journey and one that we're excited and thrilled to be on, and we invite you to join us on it. Thanks.
I do actually work for the Soil and Water Conservation District, but today, as Russell said, I'm going to talk about the Reedy River Water Quality Group. The Reedy flows from Travelers Rest all the way through Greenville County and down into Lake Greenwood and beyond, and eventually winds up in the Atlantic Ocean. And we all know that it has some issues. It's much better than it was before, but it still uses some work. So a group of people and governments and organizations, over 30 of them, got together and formed the Reedy River Water Quality Group. And our goal is to improve water quality in the Reedy River. How are we doing that? We're made up of all these different groups, and we have committees. So the main committee is the executive committee, and that is chaired by Greenville County, the City of Greenville, and REWA. And that's our executive steering committee. We have a monitoring committee, and that we have monitoring stations in the Reedy River all down throughout the county to keep loads of what the water quality is. Beyond that, we have a best management practices committee. That committee works on figuring out what practices we could put into place in order to improve water quality. The modeling committee takes those best management practices that are recommended and figures out what impact will they have. The economic impact committee then takes that and says, how will this help us? And then we have the best committee. It's the one I'm on, public outreach, yay. And that's what I'm doing right now. So we're talking about it. How are we doing? We've had success. The biggest success that we've had is that the EPA is using our group as a model to put this towards the whole country. They want to do this citizen model throughout the country. So that's where we are. Thank you.
Hello. If I was to describe myself to you this evening, I would begin by saying my name is Tracy Moore, and I'm the CEO of Donate Life South Carolina. I would then tell you I'm tall with dark hair, I am a mother, and yes, I'm a grandmother. I enjoy a good joke and love to laugh, but I also understand passion and I enjoy a good fight too. I am a leader, so therefore I see the big picture in life, but I also understand small things and treasures in the heart. I love traveling and I love seeing the world, but I cherish those weekends alone with my husband in my pajamas, power watching Game of Thrones. Winter is coming. Some of you might be saying, what does this have to do with organ and tissue donation? But I'll tell you, it has everything to do with being a registered donor. Because as I was describing my life to you, many of you could connect with something about me that reminded you of yourself. All of us understand the very essence of what it is to be alive. But did you know that today in South Carolina, there are over 1,000 individuals who are on a transplant waiting list? And that means right now in our community, there are people suffering and dying each day while waiting on that list. Our job at Donate Life South Carolina and our vision is to ensure that every individual needing a transplant receives a second chance at life. We also work hard every day to share with you the meaning of hope and healing through organ and tissue donation. So I will quickly end with a saying that was written by Brian Andreas. One day the light will shine through my skin like the sun, and someone will say, what did you do with your life? And though I will remember many things, I will be proud to say in the end, I was one of us. Thank you.
Good evening. I am Susie Foley, the Executive Director at the Greenville Free Medical Clinic. Imagine, if you will, a widow in her 50s. She's working 2 jobs just to make ends meet, neither of which offer her health insurance or paid sick leave. She gets sick. She goes to the emergency room, and there she's diagnosed with diabetes, high cholesterol, and high blood pressure. The caseworker there says that she can get fixed up there at the emergency room, but she needs to follow up and establish her medical home at the Greenville Free Medical Clinic. She's a little concerned. She's uncertain about this. She's never had to ask for help before, so she doesn't really know how she's going to be treated when she goes there. She's not sure about the quality of the physician or the dentist or the nurse that's going to see her, if it's free care, which she perceives as indigent care. She's not sure how she's going to be able to afford those prescriptions that the doctors are sure to write for the conditions she's been diagnosed with. I can tell you her fears and other patients at the Free Medical Clinic, their fears are unfounded. They are provided quality, compassionate care free of charge to them for low-income, uninsured Greenville County residents. They are provided a primary care visit. They got their specialty care provided. They got their pharmacist. It was kind, volunteer nurses, volunteer physicians from the primary practices in Greenville here, and it was quality care provided to them. How can it be free? People wonder all the time, how can it be free? Greenville's generous. Greenville is donations and volunteerism, and that's how it's free for our patients. The old MasterCard commercial, what's the value of free? The value of that avoided emergency room visit when the next time she gets sick is $2,168. The value of $1 that's invested in the free medical clinic is $17 in health care services. But the value to that low-income wage earner in Greenville County that's now healthy, priceless. Thank you.
Good evening. I'm Phil Clark with Greenville Family Partnership, and Greenville Family Partnership works to educate our youth about the effects of what drugs and alcohol can do to their developing brain. You know, we're that big elephant in the room. Nobody wants to talk about drugs and alcohol, but we're talking about kids. Our mission is to work with parents and the community to start that conversation about drugs and alcohol and the effects they have on their developing brain. The opioid epidemic we hear about all the time kills 115 people every day across our country. And we keep hearing more treatment, but we don't hear anything about prevention. The fact is, those that enter treatment for opioid use, 80% of them did not just start with an opioid. They started with something else. And chances are they started with tobacco when they were 11, 12, 13, or 14 years old. Health-related costs in our state is right at $2 billion a year because of tobacco-related illnesses. Tobacco is still the #1 killer in the state of South Carolina, even today. And for lost productivity at the office equals $2.3 billion a year in South Carolina. That's where it starts. That's what we work on, and that's what we're trying to change in our communities. Also, as we look, in South Carolina, 38.3% of smokers do not have a high school diploma. So tobacco companies are targeting the lower income communities, and that's where we're trying to get into. So join us as we try to make a difference in our lower socioeconomic communities and to help these kids that don't have a chance. Help us help them. Thank you.
If you were being terrorized, berated, and abused in your own home, what would you do? Would you leave? If you didn't leave, what would it take for you to leave? Where would you go? Women are taught to be afraid of the stranger in the alley, but in reality, a woman is in more danger in her own home than anywhere else. Domestic violence is the leading cause of injury to women, more than muggings, stranger rapes, and car accidents combined. And what about the children? Domestic violence impacts a child's immediate sense of safety and their likelihood to experience physical and mental health problems as adults. Greenville County reports the most domestic violence victims in the state, and South Carolina ranks 5th nationally for female victims murdered by males, at more than double the national average. Safe Harbor is the only domestic violence shelter in Greenville County, providing safe, emergency shelter and counseling for over 10,000 women and children since the late 70s. Yet we only have capacity to provide emergency shelter for 34 people at a time, all sharing 5 bedrooms and 3 bathrooms. So far this year, we've had to turn away 125 families. We simply do not have enough space to provide safety, hope, and healing for families who need it the very most. So please stay tuned, because Safe Harbor needs to raise close to $5 million to build a new shelter, increasing our bed space and necessary privacy that families need to feel safe and in control, probably for the first time in years. National magazines have called Greenville the hippest city in South Carolina, one of the best places to live in America. One thing that magazines can't capture about Greenville is our heart and our compassion for our own. We need your help. Join us as we stand up against statistics and prove that we care about the safety and health of women and children. By supporting our new shelter campaign, you're investing in the mission to build a community where all homes are safe homes. Thank you.